a memory, just a memory of a dream of yesteryear. Another branch line, another derelict of the great days of the railways which has had the chop. For 6 years now, only ghost trains on what is paradoxically termed the permanent way have steamed and whistled through this most beautiful of Devon's river valleys. Ghosts. From the wilds of Dartmoor down to the estuary at Dartmouth, the river with its changeless, chuckling stream can well laugh at our failure to run a train against running waters. But the last trick isn't lost yet, and it's rather fun to see what's happening here now. British Rail wrote off this tuppenny halfpenny branch line in much the same way as people in their day wrote off this medieval pack-horse bridge, the old watermill on the other bank of the river where they used to mill the corn. But look, against all probability, the Iron Horse is on the road again, firing new life, without benefit of British Rail, into the old Great Western. God's wonderful railway, as it used to be nicknamed, on a rusty track, it won't be rusty much more, along just 10 miles of the Dart Valley from Staverton to Ashburton. Not much of a line, but how many memories it evokes.
A ticket in steam through 10 miles of delightful South Devon countryside by courtesy of the Dart Valley Light Railway Company, a group of enthusiasts, ordinary citizens, everyone, bound together by their slightly eccentric and certainly highly romanticized obsession with things past, and no less an obsession to make their little bit of railway line pay. The Ashburton to Totnes branch line was opened very nearly 100 years ago from Ashburton in the north down underneath the main road, the A38, to meet up with the River Dart just outside Buckfast Lee, on past the monks at Buckfast, down through the river valley to Staverton, to skirt the Dartington estate, and eventually to Totnes itself and the main line. It's all rather elegant and unhurried as you pass through the unchanging countryside in a manner that itself hasn't changed for over 100 years. It's a nostalgia for the sight and sound of steam, for that magical alchemy of boiling water and vapour and smoke. Well, for 9 miles, you really are in a completely different world. But then, eventually, you arrive at Totnes, and you're brought back to startling reality by the more modern locomotives of a completely different generation, a generation which may, perhaps in time, breed its own nostalgia.
Isn't it wonderful? Staverton Bridge Station. Everything that a railway station ought to be. All that's missing is the weighing machine, the penny in the slot chocolate, and of course the railway sandwich. All that's out of place is me. I ought to be wearing a Homburg hat, an Ulster coat with an Astrakhan collar, you know, one of those fur collars which look as if they're made of worm casts, and I ought to be carrying a portmanteau and a walking stick. But at any rate, I'm wearing my Great Western tie, a souvenir of that once proud line which, alas, has now lost its identity. Lost it? Well, not quite. Along 10 miles of track, at any rate, the Great Western rides again. Oh, Mr. Porter. Who said you've never had it so good? This was a first-class saloon coach on the GWR's Ocean Express, when back in the 30s, the big liners used to berth at Plymouth before they went to Southampton. She was named Duchess of York. She was never seen on a branch line. But don't think that means she's come down in the world, because she hasn't. The Duchess is today the boardroom of the company which is now running the Dart Valley Railway. Once more, she's the pride of the line. And what a peach she is. She was in a bit of a mess when the railway enthusiasts took her over. But now, once again, she must rank as one of the loveliest railway coaches in the world. No plastic here. The Duchess is lined with inlaid walnut and mahogany. The dining tables are detachable so that they can be removed between meals. The chairs, free-moving armchairs. And the table lamp, incorporating an ashtray, is made specially heavy so that it won't fall over. Up there, there's a private compartment where 4 could talk big business over the dining table, and where 2 could presumably look to other business. At each end of the coach, there's a luxurious loo. I'm being sybaritic. To the railway enthusiast, what he prefers, what makes him prick his ears and flare his nostrils, is the sound, the smut, and the steam.
Well, while you certainly have to come down here to get the sight of steam, you don't have to come as far as the Dart Valley to enjoy the sounds of steam, because one man, Peter Hanford here, has devoted the greater part of the last 14 years of his life to putting these sounds just like that one, on record. Peter, could we just first of all hear one of the sounds from one of your records?
Yes, certainly.
What's this one you've got
this, is recorded inside the signal box at Exeter Central, Exeter Stables, I should say, on a busy summer Saturday. You hear the levers and the bells in the signal box. And this is a train that's been held at a signal. There's one of the signal bells going now. It's been held at a signal to let another fast train go by, and they've just pulled off the signal so that it can leave the station. It's bound for the west of England, pulling out. It's just coming up past the signal box now. It's very close. All the windows are open. You can hear it quite clearly. And it's gone past the signal box and it's away towards the west.
Yes. Well, now, that's marvellous. It's a sort of a pictorial sound. You can imagine, you can almost see the engine there. Great for listening to once. But I can't imagine listening to it more than once. Who buys these sort of things?
Well, it's very difficult to say, but certainly some railway enthusiasts, obviously. But I think much more than that. People who loved the train, the steam train, in the setting of the English countryside. Photographs tell less than half the story, I think, and I think the sound of the steam locomotive and the things associated with the railways in those days fill in the rest of the picture. And in the records, I try and give a picture of wherever one is, whether it's out on the moors or in a village or something like that.
How long does it take to make one of these recordings?
Oh, you can sit a week and get nothing.
Really?
Yes, quite easily.
Well, Peter, I must leave you to it now. My train is about to
Yes,
go.
and I must record
and get the Dart Valley special on tape.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Look at this. Terence Cuneo's splendid oil painting of a GWR loco on this line passing over the River Dart. You know, railway engines had never seemed the same to me since the passing of those old tank jobs, the sort that's pulling us now in the green, black and red colours of the GWR. And like most boys, I can't remember that I ever wanted to be an engine driver. But that notice, which used to appear inside the doors of all railway carriages, the Pensez pas au dehors, always challenged me to stick my head out of the window. And how my fingers have itched. They're itching now to pull the communication cord and pay the fine of £5. I do it now. But although the Dart Railway is now a private enterprise, it's still governed by the Light Railway Order, which sets down the rules and regulations for the nationalised railways. And I'm not going to break the law on what's left, what little is left of the old GWR. For most of its length, the Dart Railway runs alongside the banks of the Dart. This silver stream, cradled in the mists of Dartmoor, which joins the sea to find the salmon waiting to come up into fresh water. And I'll tell you another thing, nothing to do with railways, but there's gold in that there stream. A local engineer and landowner, it's taken him a long time, has collected enough gold to make this ring. Not quite big enough to pass down my little finger, but it's real gold, 22 carat. So if you've got time to spare, you might pan enough yourself, at any rate to pay your fare for the round trip of 7 and 6pence on the Dart Railway. But I tend to talk country-wise. For your real railway enthusiast, what he wants is the black gold, the black hands and black faces of the footplate.
But I wonder whether the engine drivers and the firemen of the age of steam would quite share Mac's romantic nostalgia for its passing. Now, as then, life on the footplate leaves neither time nor, believe me, inclination to admire the beauties of the passing countryside or to wax poetic about the puffing Billy. Now, Bill Cartwright, who's with me here, is an old Great Western man of half a century's experience. Bill, we're going like mad now. Suddenly there's a cow on the line. We've got to stop this thing. How do we do it?
Oh, shut that down.
Put down the regulator, right. Let's put her down. Down as
Put
far
that
as
up.
Yeah. And now she'll stop. Right, let's stop her. Great, that's it. So how long does it take to bring it to a standstill, assuming they're doing 30 miles an hour?
Oh, about 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
5 minutes, I think, from 30 miles an hour.
To bring it to a standstill?
Yeah.
But I mean, what happens in an emergency?
Well, in emergency, of course, you stop in about 2 minutes. Or even less than that.
Well, I should hope so, yeah.
Right, well, look. You put all the brake on when you stop in emergency.
Yeah.
You put all the brakes on.
Yes.
Well, you practically stop dead.
Yeah. Now, I want to get moving again, so tell me, what do I do? I put this one up, do I?
That one up straight.
Put that one up straight. Right. There it is, up straight.
Regulator.
And now I pull up the regulator, do I?
Right, yeah.
And we're not, are we going? Are we?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll let you take care of it, Bill. You see, it's not just a matter of pulling a lever and letting the engine take care of itself. Steam engines were reliable as long as they were treated with respect, but they did demand constant attention. Now, the job of the fireman was certainly one of the most unenviable jobs on the railways. The regulations, which were always strictly upheld on the main lines, required him to stoke the boiler with between 6 and 8 shovels full of coal every 2 minutes. Now, this ensured that he was more or less kept bent into for the duration of the journey. It was by no means uncommon for the fireman to move between 10 and 14 tons of coal in one day. Just think of that. And all that for a mere £10 a week or so, and a system of promotion that relied on death before firemen were promoted to drivers. And even when he became a driver, and many of them didn't, then it was only an extra £2 a week, £12 a week, and all that for the burden of the responsibility of the lives of hundreds of passengers. So, you see, no matter how comfortable, how luxurious it might have been for the passengers in the days of the old Great Western, believe you me, there's nothing romantic about life on the footplate.
Well, in spite of the driver, we've arrived safely at Buckfastleigh. Hugh is now off the footplate and in the sidings by the station. He's talking to some of the people who've given time and money, £70,000 worth of it, to revive a railway which some people thought wasn't worth keeping.
Well, I wonder what those sceptics would say if they could see all this going on at Buckfastleigh today, the work of renovating and restoring these old engines and the rolling stock. Work supervised, among others, by Bob Saunders, who's one of the directors of the company. Bob, you've done well in acquiring all this rolling stock, but in time, of course, it will wear out, I suppose, of old age. What happens then? Will the Dart Valley Railway simply cease to exist?
No, I think with the care and maintenance which we show that we can give to these locomotives and the spares which we've acquired, I'm quite sure that we can maintain them in service between 50 and 175 years without any difficulty at all. And I feel that with a grand band of volunteers that we've had, of all walks of life, railwaymen as well, that there's every indication that we can maintain them in the condition that you see them at the moment.
Well, Bob has lived beside the railway now for 35 years, so one can understand his own feelings about it, but not so Brian and June Cox. They're Londoners, and they come all the way down here to Devon simply for the privilege of clambering over these things and getting thoroughly filthy and dirty in the process. Brian, why do you do it? It's an awful long way to come.
Yes, it is a long way, but I think it's love of steam locomotives that does it. I'm a driver on BR, and we lost our last steam locomotive in 1962. And last year, while we were down here on holiday, I discovered the Dart Valley Railway, and I thought, what a wonderful chance to get back and do some work on steam locomotives. So here we are, and I'm lucky in that I've got a tolerant wife, and she allows me to come down here pretty well when I want to.
Most important.
Indeed.
June, I've always thought of railway mania as a distinctly male disease, but you've been bitten by the bug as well, have you?
Yes, well, we came down, as my husband said, last year, and I didn't think there would be as much to do for me, you know, but we started work and restoration on this engine, and it certainly did bite me, and we had her in steam this last weekend, and it seems to be the culmination of 6 months or so. Very hard work, but worth it.
Indeed. Well, as you just heard Brian say, he is himself a railwayman. He's a driver with British Rail, and there is a certain amount of evidence that there's a very distinct fifth column within British Rail itself that over the last few years has been a great help to the Dart Valley Company. Well, now, like all railway boards, this one has its chairman. It's Dr. Beeching, a man, though not concerned with cutting back the railway, rather with restoring it and making it pay. His name's Pat Whitehouse, and this is his own pride and joy, the very first engine that the company bought, the Great Western. Pat, now, you've been investing about £70,000 all told in buying these engines, in buying the rolling stock, the line, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But is it really going to pay?
Certainly it is. It's got to pay. I don't think there's any question about this, Hugh. We're right in the heart of a tourist area. This is a tourist business, really. It's not running a railway to get people from Totnes to Ashburton. It's to do something to make the tourist enjoy himself. Now, we've done this, some of us in Wales, and we carry, what, 227,000 people perhaps in the summer there. We shall do far more than that here. I don't think there's any question about it at all.
What about the pure day-to-day business of running a railway line like this?
Well, it really is a miniature full-sized railway. I suppose you can say it's a mini railway. To go into it in detail would take us hours, but to give you one example of it, you've been up to Ashburton and seen that, and we've got a depot up there which is going to be capable of maintaining all our locos and rolling stock. We've got somebody in charge of that. It's one of the small things that makes us completely self-contained, which is what we've got to be.
Well, I must say that I've never been particularly enamoured of railway trains and everything that goes with them. But I must say that in the time that I've spent with the Dart Valley Railway Company, I have also been bitten by their tremendous infectious enthusiasm.
It was out of the same infectious enthusiasm that this old canopied railway station, an original piece of architecture by Brunel, is now getting a facelift. This is Ashburton, on the edge of Dartmoor, at the terminus of the line. And you'd expect that here, to make the return journey, they'd have to put another engine on front. Not a bit of it. This is a push and pull train. Just look. This time, I'm the engine driver, in the back seat. What I do is this. Press this bell to tell the fireman to put the engine into reverse, check that the handbrake's off, and the vacuum's ready, blow the whistle, start, and advance the regulator thus. Slow train in the Dart Valley. What a nice way to run a railway.